Three.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Good Chalk Podcast. In this episode, we'll be doing UFC 300 Superfight, Sean Strickland versus Ian Garry. They're not fighting, but who knows? The sky's the limit. But first topic of this podcast, we'll be recapping last week. So Armis European, Jalen Turner, what's next for those guys? And I'm gonna kind of say what I think is next for both of them. Then Nikki Best gonna say what he thinks next for both of them or what's good for them. And as far as for me, I feel for Armis Ukraine, I feel what's good for him next could be Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier might not want that fight because he doesn't want to risk losing to a young guy with everything to gain. So he probably wants to fight the name fighters and hope to get back in there. But I feel it's a fight he needs. Like he was supposed to beat Justin Gaethje. That was supposed to be his, I guess, his easy one back. Or it made sense. Like I already beat him before, I should beat him again. And if I beat him again, now I'm gonna, do what I already did before. I'm gonna be right back in the title picture now. I had to, take too much risk fighting some unknown guy who's gonna wrestle me up or some young guy who got again like right in that prime. I'm out of my prime. Like you want to fight guys that are older and have names to them. You know, so they don't really have much advantage of you versus a young guy who has everything to gain and every advantage over you. So, yeah, not realistically, because obviously Poirier is a better striker and, this and that, but still, get the general gist. Like the younger guys are typically supposed to win. That's just how life goes. Time is undefeated. But, yeah, so I think a Poirier would make the most sense. And honestly, I would want Poirier to fight him next, to get destroyed, retire, because I just want to see new blood. I've been wanting to see new blood in this lightweight division for a minute. But then these new guys have started losing to the old guys, and what's the holdup? We keep saying the same fights, or saying the same guys in the picture for now. But hopefully, Armis Ukraine is able to break that mold and get into that title picture. Have a rematch with Makhachev or something. But yeah, I think Poirier makes the most sense. Both guys have everything to gain for that fight. If Poirier can beat him, he gets a title shot. If Surukin wins, then he likely gets a title shot, especially if he does it in dominant fashion. But he still got Justin Gaethje waiting around in the wing too. I don't know who's getting the next title shot, but either way, it pushes them very close to a title shot, especially if they do in a impressive finish. But yeah. Next one is Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner, I think he could run it back with
Dan Hooker.
No, not Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is injured, so he ain't gonna be around.
Matt Frivola.
Matt Frivola, yes.
Yeah.
Our first guest on this podcast. I think he could run it back with Matt Frivola. I think that'd be a good matchup. I think that's the matchup Matt Frivola should have took. It makes sense. He already had a win over him. He was actually ranked versus fighting an unranked Benoit Saint-Denis, and now getting put away in the first round. Now Benoit got a ranking versus you fighting a guy actually in the ranking, that guy that you already beat. But I think that'd be a good matchup, and I think it will address maybe some of the grappling of give Jalen Turner a chance to address some grappling, or give Matt Frivola a chance to double up that win and say, yeah, I lost, but I'm still here. I'm still getting better. So it's a very close competitive fight for both guys, and it could definitely do a lot for both guys. And they're both still, around the rankings. So I think that would make the most sense. But and Jalen Turner, he might try to look further up or further down. I know who else was calling out. What's his name? Moicano was calling him out. I think he could take that fight, and I think he beats Moicano pretty handedly. But it seemed like he doesn't want to fight Moicano. I feel like this feels that Moicano has been inactive. It doesn't deserve it. But I think that'd be a good match for him. As much as Jalen Turner feels good about this win, he was coming off 2 or 3 losses. So it's not a fact that he just got by winning one fight impressively. He can now call the shots. You still need to pick some stack some wins up. I think you're 14-7, no insult, but it's not a pretty record. All the talent you have is you should be 20-2 or 20-1, but it's not the case. You're 14-7, 15-7. So stack some wins up, knock out Moicanos, knock out some other guys kind of around there, the lower rankings. Maybe fight some more striking matchups, because I think he'll do great in striking matchups. Beat some strikers, beat some has-beens and whatnot. And get a 3-4 fight winning streak. Then start really calling your shots. Don't, like I said, you haven't been rushing it now, and when you're losing, you definitely ain't going anywhere. You kind of sticking around. But so stack the wins and then start calling shots. But I'm not his life coach. I'm not his mama. But I think that would be smart for him to take a Frivola fight, a Moicano fight. I think Moicano is the most winnable fight in a fight. I think I just think it's the most winnable fight. I still think it does just about the same as a Frivola win. But what do you think about for Ukraine and Turner?
Man, I was all on board for the Dustin Poirier fight. I really think it'll give Poirier a chance to be reassess his life and be I'm not young anymore. I'm still great, but Armin definitely, hats off to him because I think he could win that fight. The fight that I want to see Armin fight, and I know this is going to be a stretch because he's number 12, Benoit Saint Denis. I think if he beats Benoit Saint Denis, he should automatically get a title shot. Like third in line to Justin Gaethje, who earned it himself. I That's just a fight I would love to see. I think both fighters are game. I think that Armin, it's his time right now. It's Benoit's time, and I think it would just be a great, stepping stone for Benoit if he wins, which I don't see that fight him winning that fight just from what he did to Beneil Dariush. And I like Benoit a lot. He's made me a lot of money. I have a lot of respect for him. But I think going down just a little bit to number 12, fighting a guy who's up and coming, who everybody, is shocked to see. I think that's his best bet. I think that it'll push him in the title contention because he either destroys or gets destroyed by, someone that is quickly up and coming in the lightweight division. As far as Jalen Turner goes, I'm on board, man. I want the Matt Favola fight. I think Matt's earned it. I think Jalen would want it because he has a loss to him. So I think it makes the most sense. I want to see Matt back in the top 15 like he should be. I don't think he should have got kicked out and Bobby Green or Drew Dober stayed in because he flatlined Drew Dober and Bobby Green, who is great at what he does. But I think Jalen Turner proved that you can't just Muhammad Ali box in a octagon. It just doesn't work like that. So I'll definitely lean Matt Favola over Jay Turner. And the fight I want to see is Armin versus Benoit. The fight that makes the most sense, and I think you put it out there, is Dustin Poirier.
All right, cool. Now to our next topic is Ian Garry. Like Ian Garry, is he a cuck or is he a young buck or is he both? But yeah, really just Ian Garry. Like with his, I don't know his wife or his name, and like it's really irrelevant. But it does raise a lot of questions. It seemed like the whole WAG thing, the whole thing like this, like why are you dating this older woman? I know she looks good for her age, but like why? It really is not even a matter of morality or anything at this point because he could do whatever he want. He could date a 60-year-old, he could date a 70-year-old, he could date a man, he could date a transgender, he could do whatever he want. Like at the end of the day, it's about what he does in the cage. But I think what's more interesting, like I could ramble and like try to make make questions about his life, but at this point, it was a hot topic like a week ago. Got a little bit late to it, but now I think what's more interesting is how will this affect him? Like, and also the interesting thing is the whole, I guess, beef a little bit riling up between him and Sean Strickland, and I think that's a potential match. Sean Strickland was a former welterweight. Ian Garry's a pretty big welterweight. I think he can definitely see himself going up to middleweight in the future or taking a step up. Like just like Kamzat could jump between the weight classes, I think Ian Garry's capable of jumping from the weight class. But on top of Ian Garry, so really this whole panel for this whole second topic is Ian Garry. So it's one Ian Garry getting dropped by a sparring partner. What's up with that? Like has he like getting kicked out of gyms, getting dropped at least one time by the current Bellator champion, and then this whole cuck situation, this whole WAG, well, it's not even cuck, it's like a WAG situation. How is all this affecting him? Then the Sean Strickland beef, is he getting, at first he was this guy talking trash. Nobody really was coming for him. He was coming for everyone else. He was the one talking trash. And now he has become like the butt of jokes lately. So it's always easier to be the guy rapping, but when you're being rapped about, how would that affect you? So that was his strength at first. He'd be the one talking. He was a fake Dollar Tree Conor McGregor. But now he's the butt of jokes. So would that make him have more mental lapse out there and leave him more susceptible to losing to guys he should not lose to, like a Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, who he in the past probably said he should beat those guys. These guys already showed that they aren't that guy. He's a guy that's still hot and streaking. He should be able to beat these guys and beat them pretty handily. Not to say they're bad or anything, but I think he's definitely a guy that's has perspective of being a title challenger. Potentially still has hopes of being a champion, where there's other guys like Luque not becoming a champion, Jeff Neal not becoming a champion, not at least in the UFC, maybe PFL, but maybe Risen, but maybe ONE FC, but not UFC. But so it's really like how you can that affect him in as far as a potential fight between him and Sean Strickland, whether it be this year, whether it be some surprise, crazy, just throw up a fight at UFC 300, because the beef just spirals out and they like, let's make some money off this fight. The UFC just like, you guys want to fight Sean Strickland's next opponent fell out, or his next two opponents fell out. The other guys didn't want to take the fight on short notice, and Garry steps up like, I want to take it, and they make this one of the major fights on UFC 300. Even though Ian Garry hasn't deserved nothing, he's not a champion. He hasn't really had that real big statement win yet. But hey, he might have a big statement win by the time UFC 300, and he comes in on short notice. So this is definitely on the table. Like, we don't know, but yeah, I don't know how it affect him, but I don't think it's going to affect him for the better. I feel like he's better when he's a trash talker, but it will definitely be interesting to see how he navigates, being the butt of jokes, and how would that affect his mental state? But how do you feel about that situation? How do you feel it's going to affect him getting knocked out in sparring? All the getting kicked out of gyms, getting knocked out in sparring, the whole becoming the butt of jokes, the WAG situation. It's all of that and combined. How do you feel that would affect or not affect Ian Garry?
Man, I feel bad for Ian Garry that he's sending messages to Sean Strickland threatening to sue him. It's just not a good look, man. The same thing with the Logan Paul situation and his wife. I think, like, when you're selling a fight or you're in the fight game and you're trying to gain attention, I think anybody will say anything, and I think there are limits. Racism, if someone is, LGBTQ, I think it's their business. I don't care what other people do. If Ian Garry got tricked by his wife and she wrote a book about it, that's on him to either look at himself in deep thought or turn around and be like, listen, you guys don't know what you're talking about. If you guys want to talk about fights, let's talk about fights. But if you want to talk about my relationship, do it on your own time. Don't message me. Don't hit me up. But I think it's a bad look for Ian Garry to threaten that. But at the same time, I guess that's what he sees as his path to answer what Sean Strickland's saying. And Sean Strickland even admitted, he's like, I don't hate the guy. He thinks he likes him a little bit. Like, he thinks he's a good fighter, which he is, and he thinks that he's probably just getting played. But yeah, I just, those situations are super messy. Like, when it came to Daniel Cormier and John Jones, like, that was just bitter rivalry, and it spilled over in the press conferences and all of that. So those are much different than, like, people getting mad about their wife, which, like, at the end of the day, like, she wrote a book, she said some stuff, and, like, it doesn't look good, but at the end of the day, it's his business. You know what I mean? Kind of similar to the Jamal Hill situation, I think. You know what I mean?
And that just parlays right into our next topic, Jamal Hill. That situation with his brother, like, how does that affect him? Jamal Hill, no, it just seemed at first it was the injury, and prior to that, everything was going pretty well for him. Jerry got injured. I still thought he would spark Jerry, no matter who was the champion, whether it be Jerry or Glover or whatnot. I think he would have sparked both. He beat Glover for the vacated title because Jerry got injured. And I thought, like, it would be him versus Jerry, and he would spark Jerry just how Pereira sparked Jerry. I thought that would be the case, but then just how Jerry got injured, he got injured, and then we just thought it'd be like a layoff. Now he's dealing with legal issues, and we don't know how it's going to affect him. I guess the good thing, well, even though it's kind of bad to say, is that it wasn't like a woman, it wasn't his wife, his girlfriend, his child, or anything like that. It was his brother. So you could kind of, like, say, at the end of the day, they probably could just brush under the rug, brothers fight and stuff. But, your adult legal matters become things, not just like you just fight in front of your family and your parents just break you up, or y'all just make up over time. This legal stuff could get involved, and also with that big profile. But more and more keep coming out about it. And again, it's not making it necessary. It's making it worse, but again, it's still, at the end of the day, him versus his brother. He might lose some money. He might lose a couple of fans, But what I think is interesting about this one, or bad about this one, that kind of point to his mental state. I feel he does show a quick, short temper, kind of goes on this whole, being a man thing, and we understand that and whatnot. But also part about being a man is being a grown man, not a kid. You're not a kid no more. You can't just, especially with a lot of stuff on, you can't just go out and fight. That's why a lot of people, even though they could fight, they get bodyguards, they get people to do that stuff. Like, I get paid to fight, so I'm not gonna be fighting my brother. And also, I'm a trained fighter, so why am I fighting my untrained brother? Maybe you might suplex him, put him in a headlock, something, put a choke on him to show your dominance over him or something. But fist fight, fist fights could easily end up people dead. You punch somebody in the face, especially sucker punching somebody, what they saying, all that stuff is alleged. Nothing really fully came out. It's he said, she said. And I think what's worse coming out, is that I think they say he fought in front of his kids or whatnot, or in front of children. That's not a good look. Sucker punch, that's not a good look. And think they say he didn't say Happy Thanksgiving to his daughter, but I don't know. I don't really care too much about that because Thanksgiving not really a real holiday, to be honest. But that's my opinion. So somebody can say, what do you believe that they thought that Thanksgiving such an important holiday was really just the genocide of Native Americans and whatnot? Not to put a Debbie Downer, but that's just the reality of it. But hey, if you want to go out there, just use it for excuse to celebrate with your family, join your family. That's all good. But don't get it twisted by anything else. Just enjoy with your family, eat whatnot, eat in abundance, be a glutton for one day or 2 or 3 days a week. But yeah, I just think fighting in front of his kids is not a good look. Sucker punching his brother, all this alleged stuff. But he was tweeting that when that truth come out, it's gonna make sense. But I think he's much above that. And I'm all over the place with one. But I think another thing that came out, they said he was, I guess his brother felt he was being misogynistic, and I feel that is a bit in his character, all that man stuff, which is not really misogynistic by itself. But I have heard him out of his own mouth on, I think, one of his own videos talk about, Andrew Tate, like regurgitate stuff Andrew Tate has said, and not to say that Andrew Tate necessarily is a bad person. Again, I'm not a moral compass or some moral authority, but it does point to some bit of misogyny that's within him. Talking about any girl, like a girl could get into any party, but a guy can't get in the party. No, basically, if a girl look good, she could be around millionaires, but a guy got to work to get there. So that kind of points to where his mind, like, he does probably have, a good deal of misogyny in him that he has to address. Like, you would still be a man, and being a man is addressing your own misogyny or your own stuff you don't. So it's not all about just punching people in the face and getting riled up. So he got to do a better job of keeping a lid on how he reacts to fans and giving everybody what they want, like a reaction out of him. Like I said, that's part of growing up and also having a profile. And yeah, and also not getting riled up in these situations so that you can kill up and get back to fighting, like, and making money and winning. And if you just riled up, who's to say that one of your opponents won't eventually use that against you and to be a counter you and put you out? Pereira probably won't be able to use because Pereira can't speak English. Jerry don't really talk trash. I think he has samurai. So those people who's to say some guy won't come out of there that's a good trash talker and won't be able to use that against you, or some guy that's or even just a little insignificant YouTuber gets you riled up. And I think he has to get riled up by media members. So this is like, he got to work. All I'm saying for him, I feel like he got to focus on mental and just training, healing up, and getting back to fight. That's as simple as training, healing up, and getting back to fight. But how do you feel about all the stuff that's coming out, or what have you really seen of all the stuff that has come out about this altercation with him and his brother in his current situation?
Yeah, I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here, where I look at the both sides of the table. I think, I've gotten into many fights with my brother. He was always bigger, and I was just a wild little kid who would fight anybody for any reason. And he checked me multiple times. So for that, I'm grateful, because now I can move on with my life and pick and choose my battles. But on the other side, like, where if my brother was Jamal Hill and I've seen him starch people, I would just not put myself around that situation if I thought that it was going to be something that I have a problem with. Why bring yourself to a situation if you don't like the way your brother talks about people or women or whatever, then just don't have a conversation with them. Don't entertain it. Don't listen to it. Give your side to your family. Say, listen, I'm gonna eat and then I'm gonna leave because I don't want to, cause issues here. I'd rather everybody just be happy. And if some of the family members can stand stuff he says, then that's on them, and that's for them to decide. But I do think you're right, though. I met Jamal Hill. If I said the wrong thing to him, it looked like he probably would have slapped the dog out of me, because like I asked him when he thinks he's going to fight Pereira, and he said second quarter. And I was just so like starstruck that I was like, oh, like kind of near my birthday, February. He's like, nah. He's like, second quarter. That's 3 months. I'm like, oh, okay, I got you. And like, I've seen him post on Twitter and get mad fans, like you said. But at the same time, like I definitely understand where Jamal could probably, improve and make better decisions, because I think he's on a path for greatness. Right now he's a legend after beating Glover Teixeira, in my opinion. I know it's a little early to say stuff like that, but I do think that he has all the talent in the world, all the brains in the world, and I think that he can go on to do great things. And that's what I want to see everybody do, whether it's Ian Garry, whether it's Jamal Hill, whether Alex Pereira, who wouldn't even acknowledge me, and Jamal Hill gave me a signature. So like I have lean towards Jamal Hill taking the time out of his day to just sign the t-shirt behind me, and I greatly appreciated it. So I do think he probably has just a huge heart and doesn't know how to express himself at all times the way he probably should, but I do think he's a good person. I do think that his brother probably should not have pressed charges against him. That's just crazy in my opinion. Like, siblings fight, it happens. Even if my brother's Jamal Hill and he knocked me out, I just probably never speak to him again. That's on me. Some people, see the world differently and think there should be justice and all this stuff. But like, I think if you put yourself in the wrong situations, you're gonna, 10 times out of 10 have bad things happen. And if you think that your brother is a certain way and you don't like it, avoid him. That's my opinion. That's what I think. But I don't think it's a good look for Jamal Hill. But I do think that he can redeem himself and go on to become champ once again. I think he's definitely capable of beating Alex Pereira.
All right, and now the final subject of this podcast episode, UFC 300 super fight. So Dana White's been talking about super fights, but I just feel like this is not an era for super fights, or this is not a period of time where it is necessarily super fights. McGregor's a money fight, but you can't put McGregor in no super fight. There's no super fight for McGregor. He's hasn't won in years, so he's not a super fight. He's a money fight. Definitely always a money fight, but he's not a super fight. Heavyweight division, John Jones could be in a super fight, but Pereira is like, he's a double champ. I don't think John Jones is going to fight Pereira. He's been talking about Miocic, so I doubt he's going to take the risk of giving Pereira a chance to dampen his legacy and come up and get a three-way championship off of him. So that's not happening. Tom Aspinall is up there. And, Tom Aspinall is an interim champion. That's not no super fight, him and John Jones. It'd be a good fight. It'd be a big fight. It'd be a risky fight for John Jones. I think it'd be a good matchup and whatnot, but that wouldn't be a super fight. It'd be a big fight, but not a super fight. I think a super fight requires two big fighters who are, pretty much at the peaks of their career. And one of them is going to lose their peak. Like Makhachev versus Volkanovski, that would be considered a super fight. It might have the attention that it deserved for the first one, but that was a super fight. Well, kind of, because Makhachev was just becoming champ. So it wasn't really, I wouldn't even say that was truly a super fight. Super fight, again, two people at the peak. So it had to be Makhachev on like a 3-4 fight defenses, and versus Volkanovski was like on a 3, 4, 5, 6 defense. So that wasn't truly a defense. I would say, textbook super fight would have been like a Silva versus GSP in their prime. That would have been the best super fight MMA could ever had. Like GSP versus Silva in their prime would have been the biggest super fight the UFC could ever make. Would it have sold McGregor numbers? Probably not. But as far as actual impact, actually relevance, and actual the two best guys, and not just the guy with the biggest mouth, the actual skills to pay the bills, and actual real legit legends, Hall of Famers, that would have been that fight. And that would have been timeless. But yeah, right now I don't see it. Like, hey, wait, John Jones just got the belt. He's still John Jones, but around him he just got Pereira, which is a big name, but not really all for the super fight. So it would give a sense that Pereira got knocked out of Adesanya not too long ago. So that's not a super fight. Light heavyweight, again, Pereira just became the champion of light heavyweight. Adesanya just lost the belt, so they can't rematch. That could have been somewhat of a super fight, but would have been a super fight. So yeah, so there's no super fight at heavyweight, no super fight at light heavyweight, no super fight at middleweight, welterweight. You got Leon Edwards just became the champion, so I know it talks of Makhachev versus Edwards, but I don't think that's going to happen. Makhachev still only had like 1 or 2 defenses at lightweight, and Edwards only has 1 defense at welterweight. He hasn't been defending his belt. So where's the super fight at? I don't see no super fight. I think Dana White should just say money fight. I know super fight gets more clicks, but he should say, I have a big fight or a money fight, because he started just saying everything's super fight. He just diluted and you don't need to dilute it. there will come a time when champions have their stack the defenses up, and it just makes sense. Like, oh, now we got a 5 defending champion, or a champion with on a 5-fight defense streak. We got a champion on a 6-fight defense streak. We got a champion. Like, it's like this will be, you could fight up or down. It will be a super fight. But right now, it's not that time. And I know that at one point you had Anderson Silva, John Jones, Cain Velasquez, and John Jones could have fought Cain Velasquez. That would have been a super fight. John Jones could have fought Junior Santos. That would have been a super fight. John Jones could have fought Anderson Silva. That would have been a super fight. Silva could have fought GSP. That would have been a super fight. Aldo could have fought Edgar. When he was champion and not when he lost the belt like he did. That would have been a super fight. But it's just not there. Aldo could have fought Cruz. That time there was a lot of potential super fights that just did not happen, or even Pettis versus Aldo. It was just a lot of super fights at that period of time. And right now, it's just the opposite. There's not really a whole lot of super fights. Guys that have defended their belts for a long time are losing their belts, and it's a lot of fresh faces, or a lot of guys who only got 3 defenses that are champions. So where's the super fight at? But I can't find it. Can you find any super fights that are there right now?
No, not at all. I think there's definitely, I think you put it perfectly. There's a million money fights. I'd love to see Bella Muhammad versus, anybody that is champion, whether it be Colby or it be Leon. I think a fight I would love to see is Arman versus Benoit, but I don't think that those are necessarily super fights. I think when you think of super fight, you would think like Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor, but Dana White said it's not McGregor. So the only other possibility that I could see being a super fight would be Tom Aspinall versus John Jones, but that fight's, years away if we're lucky, and John Jones is probably going to retire after Stipe. So I don't know, man. There's I don't see anybody in the divisions that are super fights. I see a million money fights. I see fights that could sell a million pay-per-views, but as far as like super fights go, I don't know what it is. They always seem to work out what they're trying to achieve, and it ends up being, a super fight. But I don't think anyone sees it, because everybody's like asking Dana White, who is it? Who is it? Can you tell us? We heard that you have a super fight, and Dana's like, no comment. But I think that it sucks a little bit that he'll throw that out there and then quickly retract and be like, yeah, we're not talking about that right now. I would love to know, but there's a bunch of fights that I want to see. But I think there's maybe one, Alexander Volkanovski versus Sean O'Malley. I think that could be a possible super fight, just because Sean O'Malley gained a lot of attention with his win over Aljamain Sterling, and him going up to 145, even though it's probably not likely. I don't know if that's a super fight, but it would be a great fight. So yeah, those are my opinions on the fights.
Yeah, only super fight that's really possible in MMA right now would be John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. That's literally the only super fight that's available right now. And Dana White has too much pride, and he still has Rampage slamming and beating up Chuck Liddell back in Pride on his mind. So he's never going to even risk losing any bit of status for the UFC, or risk that when he can just keep making money, keep doing what he's doing, and not taking any risks. So yeah, that fight not happening. None of these fights are super fight. Volkanovski's got no belt no more. Volkanovski still got. I say he ain't got no belt no more. He's still very much featherweight champ. He lost twice to Makhachev, but he's still undefeated at featherweight. So that is one I overlook, because O'Malley could be a super fight, but O'Malley seems like he's busy with Vera, and Volkanovski looks like he's about to get knocked out by Ilia Topuria next. But if he can beat Ilia Topuria and have a great championship performance and shut everybody up and say, "Oh yeah, I'm still here. I might have lost to Makhachev. Door might be closed, but I'm still very much the man here." Go out there and just put on one of the greatest performances he has ever put on in a fight. And Sean O'Malley goes out there and starts Vera. That fight is definitely live for UFC 300. So outside John Jones versus Ngannou, I think will be the real super fight and one of the greatest fights potentially in MMA history. I think if both of those guys give O'Malley and Volkanovski get back to their guys and emphatic efforts, emphatic performances, I think that is a super fight. So you did find the one that could be a super fight, but it's a very big if, especially on Volkanovski's side, and even especially on O'Malley's side, because he has already lost to Vera. He still got brittle legs. So all it takes one good leg kick, he could be on the ground crying again. So we don't know, but